Maggie's place hummed with the comfortable lunchtime chatter of Riverdale, a familiar symphony of clinking cutlery, bubbling coffee machines, and the low murmur of conversations about weather and local gossip. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The air was rich with the scent of frying bacon and maple syrup. Sophie stood patiently at the counter, waiting to order her usual salad, feeling the warmth of the crowded space. Suddenly the atmosphere around her shifted. Two men, their presence immediately unsettling, approached her from either side. One, wearing a too wide smile that never reached his eyes, pressed his body firmly against her shoulder, invading her personal space with a calculated casualness. The second man smoothly moved to block her natural path of retreat towards the door, a smug smirk playing on his lips. Sophie's heart began to race, a cold dread washing over her as she realized this was no accidental bump. She tried to pull away, muttering a "please excuse me," but the first man's hand shot out, his fingers closing like a vice around her wrist, his grip painfully firm. The chatter around them seemed to fade into a distant buzz for Sophie, replaced by the sound of her own panicked breathing. This tense, frightening scene, however, did not go unnoticed. At a corner booth, Ethan Cole was meticulously helping his 6-year-old daughter, Mia, tuck a napkin into the collar of her favorite yellow dress. He had registered the men's entrance with the quiet, subconscious awareness of a former predator, noting their scanning eyes and their trajectory towards the isolated woman at the counter. As the situation escalated, his paternal focus sharpened into operational clarity. He leaned down to Mia, his voice calm and low. "Hey, sweetie, I need you to be my big girl and count the tiles on the ceiling for me. Don't look away until I say so, okay?" Mia, sensing the change in her father's tone, nodded seriously, her small face turning upward. Within a breath, Ethan was on his feet, moving with a fluid, economical grace that belied his powerful frame. He didn't shout or make a scene. He simply arrived. In one seamless motion, he captured the wrist of the man holding Sophie, applying precise pressure to a nerve cluster that forced the attacker's hand to spring open against his will, freeing Sophie. As the first man snarled and turned, swinging a wild fist, Ethan diverted the blow, swept his leg, and used the man's own momentum to drive him face first into the linoleum floor, securing his arm in a controlled lock that left him immobilized and gasping. The second assailant, seeing his partner down, lunged. Ethan met him, parrying a clumsy strike, seizing his wrist and rotating it in a swift, unyielding arc that brought the man crashing to the ground. With a sharp howl of pain, his arm bent at an angle that promised agony, but was carefully engineered not to break. The entire confrontation, from Ethan rising to both men being neutralized, took less than 15 seconds. A stunned, deafening silence descended upon Maggie's place, broken only by the hiss of the coffee machine. Every eye was fixed on the broad-shouldered man, who now stood calmly between the two subdued threats and a trembling Sophie. Someone from the back whispered, "Who is that guy?" Ethan Cole, at 35, carried himself with a quiet confidence that came from seeing more of the world's darkness and beauty than most in Riverdale would ever know. His broad shoulders and steady, assessing gaze spoke of a hardened strength, while the gentle way he had just moments before tucked a napkin for his daughter revealed his profound tenderness. His dark brown hair remained cropped short, military style, despite having been out of service for years, and the light stubble along his jawline softened otherwise stern features. Once Lieutenant Cole of Navy SEAL Team 6, a man who had led special operations in territories whose names most Americans couldn't pronounce. For the past 3 years, he had simply been Mia's dad, a title he wore with more pride than any military rank. The small, predictable office job at the local insurance company paid the bills, though it hardly challenged a mind trained for high-stakes complexity. His co-workers knew little of his past, and he preferred it that way. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, he packed Mia's lunch, braided her honey blonde hair with surprising dexterity, and walked her the 4 blocks to elementary school from their modest 2-bedroom home every evening. He sat patiently at their kitchen table as she recounted her day's adventures, hanging on her every word as though they were critical mission briefings. Ethan had promised his late wife Claire that he would give their daughter a normal, safe, sun-drenched childhood. After Claire's sudden, devastating death from an undetected heart condition, he had left the military, unable to reconcile the relentless, all-consuming demands of service with the profound needs of a grieving 3-year-old. Sometimes, in the quiet moments after Mia fell asleep, he would sit on the porch with a glass of water and wonder if he'd made the right choice, if he had traded one purpose for another. But then morning would come, and Mia's smile, so like her mother's, would erase all doubt. Mia was her father's entire world, a bright-eyed 6-year-old with her mother's kind eyes and her father's determined chin. She carried a box of colored pencils everywhere, ready to capture any scene that caught her imaginative fancy. Her favorite subjects were superheroes, though her versions wore normal clothes and looked suspiciously like her father. She ordered chocolate chip pancakes every Saturday at Maggie's place, always saving the last syrup-soaked bite for her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, who accompanied them on these weekly father-daughter dates. Today, she had been diligently counting ceiling tiles as instructed. Now, with the danger past, Ethan immediately turned his back on the subdued men, his mission complete. He walked back to the booth, his posture relaxing as he approached his daughter. "Okay, mission complete," he said softly, his voice warm again. "How many tiles did you get?" Mia looked at him, her eyes wide, not with fear but with awe. 47, Daddy," she whispered, then pointed a small finger at the man on the floor. "Were those bad men?" "Yes, sweetheart, but they're not going to bother anyone now," he said, sitting down as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Across the room, Sophie, still shaking, was being comforted by Maggie herself, who was already on the phone with the police. The other diners slowly resumed their meals, casting glances of gratitude and curiosity toward the quiet man in the corner. When the police arrived, Ethan gave a brief, factual statement, downplaying his actions as just helping out. He gave Sophie a reassuring nod before focusing back on Mia, who was now drawing furiously on her paper placemat. She pushed the drawing toward him. It showed a tall, strong figure in a simple t-shirt and jeans, one hand holding a little girl's hand, the other extended, stopping 2 jagged, shadowy figures. Above it, in her best 6-year-old printing, it read, "My dad, the real superhero." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. He realized in that moment that the choice between the battlefield and the breakfast booth was no choice at all. His service had simply taken a different form. His mission was here, in this sunny diner in this quiet town, ensuring that kindness and safety prevailed. 1 pancake breakfast, 1 braided hair, and 1 protected stranger at a time. He was no longer Lieutenant Cole. He was Mia's dad, guardian of their small, perfect world. And that was the most important rank in the universe. Thank you for reading this story of quiet courage and protective love on kindness, true stories. If this reminder that heroes walk among us in everyday life resonated with you, please show your support. Like this story, share it with someone who needs a lift. And subscribe to Kindness True Stories for your regular dose of real-world hope and humanity. Your engagement helps us bring more of these powerful narratives to light.